Hello, this is Pac-Man for the NES. I actually extracted this ROM from the Steam version of Pac-Man Archives Volume 1, I think it's called. You can get the Nintendo Entertainment System ROMs out of that and run them in a NES emulator. I'm running this in the emulator called Mesen in Windows. So if you noticed there, as I was talking over it, it shows the Japanese names for the ghosts. And when you extract the ROM with a script I got from GitHub, I believe, the ROM that comes out is called Pac-Man underscore JP, which implies it's the Japanese ROM of Pac-Man for Famicom, rather than a ROM for the NES that would have been sold in a cartridge in the States. In fact, there were two revisions of the game released for the Famicom in Japan. And this, I think, would be based on the second one, because in the first one, the word character at the top was misspelled. There was a typo, and they corrected that in the second revision. And I also did something to this. They made some change to sound that people, I guess, aren't quite sure what it is. So yeah, there's the Japanese names for the ghost. So this is, I'm pretty sure, the Japanese ROM. Of course, it's been modified on the title screen with copyright information that includes a up-to-date date and the BNEI copyright for Bandai Namco Entertainment Incorporated, whatever the heck it is, of modern day-ish times. Pac-Man on NES is interesting, and it's interesting that they use the Japanese ROM. I mean, I guess it's not that interesting because they probably released these archive things in Japan. I don't know, or maybe they just found the Japanese version easier to work with. All the later versions, there were actually three versions released in the States after the Japanese Famicom version was released in Japan. The Famicom came out before the NES, of course. And the three releases in the States were all based on the Japanese Famicom version. The first one was released by a brand called Tengen, and I've got a whole conspiracy theory about Tengen. Was it a plot by Namco to break Nintendo's hold on the U.S. video game market? That's my theory anyway. But I'll get into that once I get my mitts on an actual Tengen cartridge and dump it. Not of this game, but some other game, which we'll hopefully get here this week. But so I won't go into that now. So Tengen released basically a port of this Famicom version of the game as a licensed NES release, with official Nintendo approval and stuff in the States. Shortly after that, they released an unlicensed version. They basically stole the code for Nintendo's lockout chip that was on the NES that prevented any third-party games or cartridges from working on the NES. So game publishers had to be officially licensed by Nintendo. They had to use cartridges provided by Nintendo that had chips that could talk to the lockout chip in the NES and say, hey, we're a legitimate game, let this game run. If you didn't have that security chip in your cartridge, then your game was useless. Well, Tengen stole the source code for that chip and made their own copies of that chip and their own cartridges. And one of the games that they released on these sort of bootleg cartridges with stolen source code turned into a lockout chip-defeating piece of hardware was Pac-Man, and it was officially licensed by Namco, but not by Nintendo. And then the third release of, and I guess you think, well, if Namco already had a licensed release of Pac-Man in the States via Tengen, why did they have to go and, have Tengen release an unlicensed version? I guess, well, for one thing, the chairman of Namco, for instance, had a big falling out with Nintendo. They weren't going to renew the favorable terms as a licensee that he had secured with Yamauchi on the Famicom originally in Japan, because Namco was the first licensee on the Famicom, but Yamauchi said, nope, you're going to get the same deal after his 5 years of his original contract was up. No, you're going to have the same deal now that everybody else has, and it's not going to be as good. So the chairman of Namco was really mad about that. So maybe that's why. Maybe he just wanted to stick it to Nintendo and Yamauchi. They wouldn't have to, in theory, pay any licensing fees. They wouldn't have to buy cartridges or however it worked from Nintendo. They could make their own cartridges. They wouldn't have to pay Nintendo anything. They could just sell their own games directly, get them into stores on their own, and keep all the money. Well, Nintendo, of course, ended up suing Tengen and strong-arming retailers, and Tengen went away. Nobody would sell Tengen games after a while because Nintendo scared all the retailers and threatened all the retailers. So eventually, Namco went crawling back to Nintendo and released their own licensed version of Pac-Man without Tengen being involved at all. It was Namco's own thing, licensed by Nintendo. That came out much, much later. In fact, I think that was in the 90s by that time. Well, yeah, it would have been, I think it was like 92 or 93, which was, quite late in the life of the NES, but I don't know. That's what they did. Maybe they didn't want to just remanufacture. Well, Tengen was effectively gone, so maybe they couldn't even have brought back the original Tengen release, even if they'd wanted to. Anyway, this is not any of those. It's, like I said, it seems to be based on the Famicom release more or less directly, the ROM that was in the Pac-Man Archives Volume 1 collection. So let's go ahead and hit start. I played a little of this when I originally got the Namco whatever Archives Volume 1, but I didn't make a separate video for it. Again, this is running in the emulator Mesen, not in the Steam, bundle itself directly. So, in Mesen, you can do things like get yourself an extra frame of input delay. Well, get a frame back of input delay, so it's a little more responsive. It's got, a run-ahead feature or whatever. You can have the graphics be nice and sharp without any kind of rescaling, blurriness, or anything. Oh, heck, I'm not gonna make it. But I made it! But, I have because you can also dump the ROM of just the arcade ROM for Pac-Man from the Steam, what's it called? Arcade game series Pac-Man on Steam. So it's like, well, why would I play oh man, that sound. Why would I play the NES version of Pac-Man if I can just play the arcade version of Pac-Man? you know, because you can just run that in MAME or whatever. You can extract that as well. Well, I don't know. It's a little different, so I figured I'd check it out. What's the first thing you notice is that, well, the first thing I notice that to me is kind of funny is that Pac-Man is a little bigger than normal. Like, he even sort of he sort of overlaps the walls of the maze. Like they just wanted the Pac-Man sprite to be highly visible or something. It's like, this is better than the arcade. Look at how big Pac-Man is. Like, well, okay, yeah. That's a big Pac-Man. The sound is a little off. Like, especially that ghost fleeing sound is a little weird. Oh man, there's your extra life sound. That was pretty loud. You also have you've got the Famicom, Famicom and NES thing of, oh boy, what am I doing? Of, not that many colors in sprites. Boy, I'm just asking I'm cruising for a bruising here. So you can see, like, dots through the eyes of the ghosts, which is a little weird. Like when a ghost travels over the dots, you can see the dots through their eye holes. Which I suppose in a way makes them extra ghostly. Oh no, I'm dead. Oh, I should have kept going. I wonder if I didn't even make 3 dots left. I wonder if I would be surprised if it was in this, but in the arcade version there's a chance, and I think in Miss Pac-Man as well, of course Miss Pac-Man's just a hack of Pac-Man. If you're traveling toward a ghost and you collide with the ghost, in the arcade version, there's a slight chance that the collision boxes that would tell the game that, oh, you touched a ghost, you're dead, they will just sort of skip past each other between updating frames of the game. It updates every 60 times a second or whatever, and if they're traveling just right, the collision boxes will miss each other, and you will, in effect, go right through the ghost and not die. It's a pretty low chance. I think it's under 5%. Well, it's got to be under 5% chance of it happening. But it happens more than you might think it would happen in such a famous game. So when you're playing the arcade version, at least, you always want to just, if you're trapped by a ghost and they're going to get you, just go towards them, and there's a slight chance that you will pass harmlessly through them, or they will pass harmlessly through you, and you'll live. So anyway, I wonder if that is possible in this version. I kind of doubt it, because it's a bug in arcade Pac-Man. What? Okay. I'm pretty sure I pushed down there and Pac-Man didn't go down, but I don't know, maybe I didn't push down enough. I don't know. It does feel, there's a slight floaty feel to the control. I don't think it's well, now it suddenly feels, but yeah, there is a slight something to the control that isn't quite as sharp as the arcade version. I'm using a DualSense pad to play this in Mesen. And like I was saying, it shouldn't be like a NES input delay issue or anything, really. I suppose the game itself could be sluggish if it's not programmed well for the NES. I don't know. I didn't try to measure input delay or anything. There's a real speed up for this level, though. Oh, I ate all my power pellets. Not doing so hot here. Man, that ghost sound really starts drilling into your head. Oh, wait, I got it. So, like, Pac-Man's slightly bigger. The fruits don't have as many colors and look a little weird. The sounds are a little weird. The control might be a little less responsive than the arcade version, and when I say a little, I guess more than a little. I mean, it's kind of a noticeable difference, I think. At least I'm telling myself I feel a difference, but maybe that's just an excuse I'm using for playing so poorly. Oh, heck. Okay. There does seem to be some slowdown here and there. Like, the thing about the arcade version of Pac-Man is it's just incredibly smooth, even in MAME. It's just glass smooth to play. Oh, no. That was... I'm not going to try to blame that on the game here being a little clunky with the control. That was probably all me there. Can I get to my usual 40,000? That's what I shoot for in MAME. A giant score of 40,000. Can I do it? Oh man, this sound just gets even more psycho as the game gets faster. That ain't right. They're just like speeding up the sounds with the speed of the game, it sounded like. That's messed up. Well, vive la différence. Kinda crazy. Oh my gosh, the sound gets whacked out. Oh, that wasn't a good idea. I'll take it. Well, oh well. I'll just eat you guys, how about that? Oh. I'll just eat it and get out of here. Oh man, I'm almost at 40,000. Don't blow it now. Oh, I sort of blew that. Oh man, mega slowdown right there. Sheesh. Control. Can't catch me. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's a little sluggish in terms of control. Like, oh no. Wow. Oh, I should have just gone for the power pellet. They're all on my tail. Oh no. Oh, it didn't. Jeez. Okay, I panicked. Let's just get out of here then. Yeah, yeah, I don't think it's an input delay thing. You just have to press a little more than you would think you would have to do for the game to decide to accept the input, or I don't know. That's kind of how it feels. Ah, it didn't go down. Friggin' heck. That was... Friggin' heck, I gotta watch my language. I'm swearing like some kind of weird G-rated pirate here. Oh, I'm still faster than them, though. Okay, I left dots strewn all over. This ain't so great. Oh, no, oh. I'm dead. No, I'm not dead. Wow. Oh, jeez. Oh. I think the ghosts are a little slower than they would be at this point in the arcade game. In the arcade game, I think at this point they would be faster than you. They'd be gradually catching up to you instead of you being able to, oh my gosh, the sound, being able to outrun them gradually still. Oh man, we got Galaxian. Ooh, that was, oh my gosh, the control. Didn't go down. Makes me feel like my DualSense's D-pad is dying or something, but I don't think that's it. Ah! Dang it. Ah! Well, now we're in for it. Oh, 56K in the arcade game. That would be a pretty good score by my crummy standards. That was funny because a huge chunk of that was on the last life. Oikake, or AKA Akabe. But Pinky is, I don't know, it's weird. I don't know, let's try one more. Oh my gosh, the starting speed is so slow though. This has gotta be, it feels slower than the arcade version. I mean, the arcade version is kind of slow on stage 1, but not like this is just, like, I don't know. It's gotta be a little slower in the arcade version. And like, why would they do that? Because that's gonna be people's first impression. Even if they don't know anything about the arcade version of Pac-Man, they're just gonna pop this game in, fire it up, and you're just playing this molasses-like thing, and you'd be like, oh, this is crummy. Wouldn't you? And like, if you were used to arcade Pac-Man, you'd be like, oh, why does this sound weird? But the ghosts in particular look pretty decent aside from being able to see dots through their eyes. The maze looks pretty good. I kind of actually like the pixel art of the maze. The fruit's a little low color, but it's not a huge deal. So graphically, it's actually, I mean, Pac-Man being slightly more orange than usual and a little too big is a little weird, but it's really the sound that's not so hot and the control that doesn't seem to be very great. Ugh. That are the problems here. I mean, it's still quite playable, but you can't say that this is going to be a mega hit on the NES. Oh no! What? Oh. I thought that was it. I forgot about the 12. This is crummy. Should I just... Okay, let's just try again. I like any kind of... No, I would have to cycle the power or hit the button on my... Fuck, I'll just do it. Let's do soft reset. Hey, it saved my high score. That was hitting Control R for the Mesen key shortcut for a soft reset. Which, what would a soft reset be on the NES? Is that... Actually, I don't know what that would mean. Because there's a hard reset, which that would be cycling the power, right? But what would a soft reset be? I mean, some games might, like, reset the game if you hit all the buttons simultaneously or something, which I think I tried and it didn't do anything here. But that wouldn't be a system function. God, you know, it's so slow, I'm like straining my fingers on the pad to try to make Pac-Man go faster. Like, Pac-Man Arcade Level 1 is kind of slow, but not this slow. Oh, wow. They don't usually come up there like that. Oh, well. I got less points than I did before. Oh, even level 2 isn't much faster. And there's something slightly weird about the Pac-Man mouth animation. Like, maybe it's got one less frame of animation or something? I think it does. I think it's just got... It's just got two frames. Whereas in the arcade, I think there's 3 frames. Because here it's just mouth open. Oh no, there's... Okay, I don't know. It just looks a little... Oh no. Oh wow. Lucked out there. I guess the color of the red ghost is a little too dark. And the color of the orange ghost is a little too unsaturated. Of course, the NES has a limited palette, so you've got, like, I think there's something kind of odd, like 50 colors to work with or something. Okay, this is the same deal as before, where I've got dots up in the top right, left, and I've got a not. Well, control. Oh boy. That was stupid. Man, I somehow didn't die that time. I almost died the same darn way. They actually did these cutscenes quite well. In terms of being, pretty arcade equivalent there. Oh, it's still really slow. Yeah, it's weird. It's like all of a sudden on the stage after this, you get this huge turbo boost, but these first 3 stages, it's really slow, which is not how it works in Pac-Man. In Pac-Man, for one arcade version, you're not as slow out the gate, and then you get speed-ups, noticeable speed-ups with each new level. You're going slightly faster. But here it doesn't, like, it felt very slightly faster. Maybe it... Oh man, it's just all really still feels pretty slow though. But then I think when I get to the next stage, it'll suddenly be like twice as fast. There's just this overall sluggish feeling here, like I'm moving in syrup. Oh, there's also just a buzzing sound. Like the sound chip couldn't quite handle trying to generate this kind of weedy sounding ghost sound, and the sound chip is just really... Ooh, got lucky there. It's really, it's like, sounds like the sound chip is dying. See, now there's a sudden speed up and you're cruising like twice as fast. And now it feels like a decent speed, but now the sound gets completely whacked out. Oh, and I can't handle the speed. Heck. Maybe that's why they kept it slow, because they couldn't manage this sound correctly once it got fast enough. It's so weird. Oh, God. Well, it's not looking great, and I missed my fruit. Oh. Although I think this is about how I was doing on the first play, wasn't it? And I did really bad at first. It's just really, it's disconcerting, that speed up. All of a sudden everything's twice as fast and the sound is all crazy sounding. Excuses, excuses. I do like the general, like, the maze graphics, like I said, and then the screen layout itself. Like, they picked a good, they made the maze about as big as it could be. They got the aspect ratio of it more or less correct. And then they put the scores and the display of the fruits you've collected and stuff about where you would want them. That's all pretty good. The lives you've got. Oh, jeez. Well, if you guys are just going to screw around. Uh-oh. Oh, shoot. Oh, it's funny because with Pac-Man so big, I keep thinking I'm going to get caught by a ghost, but the hitbox is not extra big. So you've actually got, they can touch the outer part of you and you're okay. Ooh. Oh, I blew that at least 2 different ways. It's funny they couldn't have gotten a brighter yellow. Did the NES color palette not have a brighter yellow? I'm trying to think of, and then it's even faster here, like, and it's just crazy, and the sound's even more crazy. Oh, dang it. Oh. See, now it actually feels pretty good. Uh-oh. There's still spots where you hit what feels like some slowdown. Maybe that's why, I guess that's why I did so well on the last life, is because once you get to this point, the play speed feels good. control's still a bit, needs a little extra nudging. And the sound is whacked out. Oh my gosh, the sound is so bad. And I don't think this is like a Mesen emulation accuracy problem. Mesen is quite accurate. It does seem like, in fact, they've just they haven't been updating Mesen regularly lately. I think the last update is from summer, so Mesen might be about done. But, you know, they might not have felt like they had much left to do. Mesen's a pretty darn good NES emulator. I suppose I'm a... Oh wait, I don't want to talk about that yet. Well, so that the Tengen game that I have shipping to me, although it was like sitting in the post office in Missouri for 4 days for some reason. Arg! 46,000. So yeah, I mean, well, I was going to say difficulty-wise, it's not too far off the arcade version, but it kind of is, because it's just too syrupy slow at first, like it's a slog for the first 3 stages, and then all of a sudden it jumps like to twice the speed, and then after another stage or 2 you get to what feels like a decent speed, and then I feel like I can actually kind of play, even though you have to be a little more careful with the control than you would in like the arcade version in MAME. So yeah, like I can't really think of a reason to play this version if you do have access to the arcade version or something. It's interesting to check it out, but now that I've done that, I like the screen layout and all that, but what was that guy doing? But yeah, the sound in particular is pretty gruesome. I like that logo. I want to look at the release dates, because it's kind of crazy. Like, there was a big delay getting this to the West. Let me see here. GameFAQs. Pac-Man. There we go. Okay, Internet, are you gonna... Oh, right. I know how to use my web browser. So Pac-Man for the Famicom came out in Japan in 1984. Of course, the Famicom, like the NES, didn't come out till in the States until 85, right? So in Japan, by the time the NES was even out at all in the States, they'd already had, their home version of Pac-Man on Famicom, which is essentially this ROM without the characters typo correction on the ghost name page for a year. And then, but they didn't even have Pac-Man released in the West yet when the NES first came out. So let's see now. Look at the Tengen release. So Tengen's licensed version came out for the NES in October 1988. So at least 3 years after the NES came out, and people were, blown away by Super Mario Bros. And stuff. You didn't have Pac-Man for more than 3 years. That's nuts. Like, what was... I mean, maybe Namco's president was so annoyed with Nintendo and their rather draconian licensing scheme in the States that he didn't want to put Pac-Man out under those Nintendo restrictions, and maybe put it off. And because Tengen, by the time they actually did they put out 3 licensed games. They were still playing nice with Nintendo. Although they had tried to get Nintendo to give them more favorable licensing terms. Like, what was it? I think, among other things, if you put out a game on the NES, and you had to go through Nintendo because they had the lockout chip on their system where a game would not work unless you had a Nintendo produced cartridge. So you had to go through Nintendo to release any games. You had to, if you put out a game on the NES, you couldn't put it on another platform for 2 years. So the NES in the States got 2 years of exclusivity. That was the deal for any game, which is just absurd. But Nintendo, they owned the market. They were the big gorilla. And then I think also you could only put out 5 games a year or something. And what's ironic, or well, I'm not going to go into. I'll go into it more when I get the actual Tengen game, which hopefully I can dump. I'm a little worried about that, but it's ironic because the whole reason that Nintendo instituted this whole lockout chip thing for the States is that they were thinking about the example of Atari and the video game crash of 1983, where the market, which Atari had dominated, ended up being flooded by cheap knockoffs. Like Atari, a bunch of engineers left Atari and formed Activision and started producing their own games for Atari's console. And Atari tried to stop them and say, it's our system. We say you can't put your games on our system, but they lost that lawsuit and they didn't have any kind of lockout that would actually prevent somebody from making a game that would just run on their system. So the market got completely flooded by what ended up being a lot of not very good games, and it just collapsed, and so everybody went out of business, basically. So Nintendo, of course, knew about that when 2 years later, they were wanting to bring their home system to the States. And that's why they instituted the lockout chip, because they're like, we're not going to let our system get flooded with cheap knockoffs. We're going to control what gets released. Which, you can't really blame them for that. Some of the other measures, maybe a bit much. So by the time Tengen was putting out so Tengen tried to get more favorable terms, and Nintendo just said no. You get the same terms that everybody else gets. And Tengen didn't have any real choice at that point, so they played along, and they put out, 3 licensed games under those restrictions. But all that time, they were already working on circumventing the lockout chip in secret. So they put out the licensed version, GameFAQs says, in October 1988, but then also later, I guess, within another month or so, they had working cartridges of their own that circumvented the Nintendo lockout because they'd stolen the source code and reproduced the lockout chips. And so within months of the licensed version being put out by them, they were like, we don't have to play that game anymore, and just started putting out their own unlicensed cartridges of it. Still with Namco's approval. So yeah, then there was a whole legal thing started because of that. But that wasn't until until 3 years after it had already essentially the same game had already been out in Japan. And I wonder how well it sold anywhere. Like, I don't know. Like, so this came out in 1988. So in the States, you would have been up to your eyeballs in this, the sweet, speedy goodness of Super Mario Bros. For 3 years by that time. And then you get Pac-Man. I mean, Pac-Man was already an old game in the arcade by 85, and this is 88. That's, Pac-Man came out in what, 1980 or whatever? I mean, that's an ancient game by that time. I would say it's still a good game in the arcade, but now you've got this weirdly sluggish and then bizarre sounding game, a version of it 8 years later. I don't know. Of course, I mean, it's miles better than probably any other version that would have been out at that time in the States. Like, actually, back in the day, because I'm old, I had a school chum who had an Atari and had Pac-Man for the Atari. This would be what is now known as the Atari 2600, although it didn't actually get that name until, I think I was just reading that today. I think it wasn't until 1982. Originally it was just called the Atari VCS, which is like video, I don't even know what that stands for. Is it like video computer system or something? And Pac-Man on that, like, even as a kid, like, I must have been in, like, what year would that have been? If it was like 81, I was born in 74. I'm like 7 years old, and I'm already disappointed in a home port of an arcade game. Where am I going? But yeah, Pac-Man on the Atari was kind of a horror show. At least to look at. Like, I don't remember how it played. But, the Atari had these gigantic, chunky, like, weirdly wide and flat pixels, and it just, of course, it couldn't reproduce the comparatively high resolution of the arcade game. And it probably ran pretty slow, but I don't remember what it sounded like. I should go watch a video on YouTube of the Atari version, but why would I want to do that? Oh, heck. Well, oh, you can see yourself through their eyes. So, like, by 1988 standards, I guess this was a relatively good home version of Pac-Man. But there would have just been so much more compelling and well-constructed games available on the NES. I don't know. And really, arcade games weren't really the thing on the NES. At least not for me. The whole thing about the NES was demonstrated by Super Mario Brothers. Or wait, was it just... Yeah, which was that you could have this gigantic, long, by our standards, long adventure. And, create this entire, what felt like this entire world or series of worlds, really. And And now I'm supposed to go and just play this dinky little maze? Why would I do that? I got all those, and you know, you've got all these RPGs with gigantic worlds and dungeons, and this is just one tiny little dungeon that sounds funny. It's only got 4 monsters in it. And they're kind of goofy. And the whole thing runs kind of slow and controls weird. Oh man, see, there's that, like, the hit detection is extremely generous feeling for giant Pac-Man. Oh, hey. It's not so much waka waka waka. It's kind of like dupa dupa dupa. I don't think you can normally make it up that far. Like that in the arcade. See, now we're getting to some kind of halfway decent speed. I'm gonna rip it up on you ghosts. Uh-oh. Dupa dupa dupa. Wobble wobble wobble. Oh no, control. Oh man, that sound didn't sound like it wanted to come out. It was like... that was wasteful. You ain't catching me. I thought that was the red ghost, but it's just the dull orange ghost. But yeah, I suddenly start to play not quite as crummy once you get a little decent. But see, then there's like no noticeable speed boost there. Oh. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it. I'm such a sucker for the fruit. I just orbit around it helplessly. That was wasteful. Whoa. Didn't expect the ghost just to follow me like that. Kind of like that sound. That was a different, like, not an arcade accurate sound, but it was kind of, oh god, the control, man. And it feels like, is it just me, or is it, maybe I just don't press as firmly up or down as I do to the sides on the D-pad, but I'm definitely having trouble with up and down. I don't know what I was thinking there. I mean, I saw I was going to run into that guy, and I was just like, well, that's what's going to happen. I can't possibly turn around or anything. So wait, is this where it feels faster again? Yeah, also look, I just turboed into that wall. I didn't expect to be moving this fast. Oh, shoot. And this is where the sound starts getting really distressed. Yikes. Dang it. guess that worked out not so bad. Whoa. Uh-oh. Oh, jeez. I meant to go up the passage before. Yeah, that's my excuse. Well, yeah, that's NES Pac-Man. The Japanese version, as far as I can tell. I mean, the US versions were more or less the Japanese version, but it really is just the Japanese version with the modified copyright information on the title screen. Nobody wanted anything more to do with the Tengen tainted releases, maybe. I don't know. I think so I was looking at releases, right? So yeah, Tengen licensed version in October 1988, unlicensed version later 1988, and then wait a second. Oh yeah, and then the Namco one on GameFAQs, you have to go back to a different page. The Namco licensed release not until November 1993. That's wild. I mean, almost a decade. Well, 9 years. 9 years after the Japanese release, Namco finally put out their own release under their name instead of a release through Tengen. So that's crazy. You so crazy, Namco. And you kind of got crushed by Nintendo. I mean, Namco, they were riding high because Pac-Man, the world did have Pac-Man fever in the early 80s. And I suppose the Japanese version of Pac-Man probably did pretty well. Who knows? On the Famicom. I don't think the Wikipedia article really talks about that. Let me see. Okay. Oh yeah, here's something about the Atari version. Pac-Man was ported to several home video game systems and personal computers. This is the Wikipedia article. The most infamous of these is the 1982 Atari 2600 conversion. This version of the game was widely criticized for its inaccurate portrayal of the arcade version and for its peculiar design choices, most notably the flickering effect of the ghosts. Oh, I forgot about that. However, it was a commercial success, selling over 7 million copies. Oh my gosh. 7 million copies of that terrible. I mean, people were just starved for any home version of Pac-Man. Atari released versions for the Intellivision, VIC-20, Commodore 64. Well, yeah, I mean, Atari didn't, they had it on their system, but then they released it on every other system too. Intellivision, VIC-20, Commodore 64, Apple II, IBM PC, TI-99, CX Spectrum, and the Atari 8-bit computers. A port for the Atari 5200 was released in 1983, a version that is considered as a significant improvement over the Atari 2600 version. Namco released a version for the Nintendo Famicom in 1984. That's one of the console's first third-party titles. Remember, Namco was the first third-party licensee. As well as a port for the MSX computer. The Famicom version was later released in North America for the Nintendo Entertainment System by Tengen and a subsidiary of Atari Games, but as I will go into in my eventual conspiracy theory episode on Tengen, Atari Games was actually more or less being run by Namco people. That's my theory anyway. Tengen produced an unlicensed version of the game in a black cartridge shell, released during a time when Tengen and Nintendo were in disagreements over the latter's stance on quality control for its consoles. They're talking about the lockout chip. This version was re-released by Namco as an official title in 1993, featuring a new cartridge label and box. The Famicom version was released for the Famicom Disk System in 1990 as a budget title for the disc writer kiosks in retail stores. That's interesting. Of course, that's only in Japan. Oh yeah, they also released a Game Boy version. Anyway, so yeah, it doesn't say how well it did in Japan, which is too bad. 7 million copies on the Atari 2600. Wow. So it must have done pretty well on the Famicom. I wonder how well Tengen's versions were doing. Tengen, of course, they eventually got so messed up in the proceedings with Nintendo that they had to, all their games got yanked from stores. Although maybe the licensed version wasn't yanked, but actually probably Nintendo strong-armed retailers into yanking that too. So really, Namco wouldn't have had a version for the NES in effect from what? That would have been like 89, 90. So from, let's say, 89 until their re-release in 93. So they went through 4 years of not having a Pac-Man on, the dominant system in the country. But, they may have had a little bad feeling toward Nintendo. Anyway, I'm going to go for now. I do have a bunch of other versions of Pac-Man that I've sort of hauled out and gotten set up to mess around with. Let's see. I think they'll, for the most part, be a little better than this version. Not that this version's terrible. Wait, what are they? I'm forgetting. Hang on a sec. Oh, well. Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they are better. So suddenly I have a bunch more versions of Pac-Man to play. This version, I don't see myself coming back to a whole lot. But, it could have been worse, I suppose. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye for now.